Welcome back. Let's get into the action now. How did I create my mural? Today we're going to do a study of part of the mural so you can see what I did in the creation of the mural. To create my mural, I had the idea first, then I took geometric shapes and organic shapes. And remember, organic shapes are shapes of nature, shapes things that you find in nature, like people, flowers, plants, and what have you. And I put those together in my design, but before I added them to my final piece, I created a background. How did I create a background? I used paints. I used watercolor paints. They are water-based paints. They are acrylic paints. I chose acrylic paints because they are more permanent than watercolor paints. And in the creation of the mural, because it was so large, I had containers filled with paint. So I brought some of those containers with me. We're going to need water. It's very important that you have different containers for your water because you want to keep your brush always clean so you can get the intense or original color. And of course, I have my brushes. I started off, however, and I'm going to start off today by using a wide brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of marbleize my color, let my color flow. My palette, I love palette as much as I'm from the islands. We have a lot of sunsets and greens and so on. So I love to use these colors. The other reason I use these colors is we are at Cross Keys High School, and the color for Cross Keys is green. So I use yellow. I mix yellow with blue to make green. I use oranges. That gives life to my work. I use here some purple. That helps me to tone my colors down. And so you will see that I have green here as well, blue, and this is an ochre color. The reason I'm using this is it's a darker than yellow color, and there's so many variations of dark yellows and so on. And I needed to use variations of yellow to get it. So let's begin. First, I'm going to wet my surface. And the reason I'm wetting my surface is I'm going to marbleize the surface and have my colors, instead of me mixing it and painting it, for my background, I'm going to marbleize it and do that here on the surface. And just imagine I have a 6 foot by 10 foot. I had a container like this, and I had a whole lot of color mixed in it. So I'll take some of the yellow. Because it's a small study I'm doing, I put the yellow and mix it. I use my spray bottle and spray some in here to dilute it to the consistency that I like to get. And when I originally start, it's not that consistent. I start putting the color down. Because the background is going to have a lot of yellow in it, applied. See, I'm putting my color down. Art is not always done where the artist determines ahead of time exactly what they're doing. Chances, discovery, sometimes work for us. So you see I have applied some of the color, and I'm going to wash it out. Remember I said that earlier? Oh, here it is. So I've added some of my yellow. I'm going to clean, very important. You want to always have enough water to clean your brushes, because you could change the color of your paints if you have a different color in the brush that you want to mix. So I put my yellow down. Now I'm going to put some of my blue down. This is exciting stuff. When you put the blue down, if the background is blue, if the background, is white, wherever it is white, it will remain white. But when you put the background down, if there's another color, it's going to mix. And we know that yellow and blue makes green. So yellow is a primary color, for those of you who can remember. And blue is a primary color. So I'm going to apply some of it. It's kind of thick. I don't mind doing that first. Apply some of the color on here. And then I'm going to tone it down a little so it flows. I did this on a huge scale. My mural that I worked on was in my basement, and so I had a big space that I could work on. Turn it down some more. We'll have some large areas for the color to flow. And I don't know if you can see it, but what is actually happening here is the water and the color is beginning to move, and it's beginning to mix. One of the things that is happening, and I brought my, just excuse me a minute, I brought my level. When I'm marbleizing, I need to ensure that my table is level, because if it's not, I would see it, and some of the color or the paints will flow in one corner, and I'm seeing it happening here. So I need to raise the side a little. But if you could see, I don't know if you could see, I'm beginning to move it around. And what's happening is the color is beginning to mix. So some areas I have blue, and in other areas I have green, because the blue mixes with the yellow to produce that other color. I wanted to get some more color in there, and as I said, in a lot of my work, I use orange. And how do we get orange? When we mix red and yellow, we get orange. Artists are influenced by things that happen in their childhood. And so, one of my favorite colors that I use a lot in my paintings is orange. And the orange reminds me of sunsets in the islands. We used to have these beautiful sunsets in the evening, and you would see all these variations of orange mixed with the blue in the skies to produce beautiful sunsets. So this is, Mr. Nedd is going to add a little orange. And remember I said yellow mixed with red gives you orange. And then again, it's not planned. I'm going to drop it in arbitrarily. The thicker the paint, the more intense it will be. And I keep diluting it. I also want you to pay attention to the fact that I am filling up my whole canvas. And this is how I actually created the background for the mural. You see the same colors here in the background over there, the reds and the oranges. In one corner of the painting, I came back after it was dry. I'll explain that to you later on. And that corner had orange. So here we go again. I'm going to turn it. And what's beginning to happen is the colors are mixing. We call it marbling. And this is a translucent, another way of mixing your colors so you have a background to work with. All right, that's the first technique. I'll be back to go into the other technique. Now I'm going to leave this to dry. And while it dries, I'm going to get myself together for the next layer of our activity for today. Yeah, and we're back to complete our painting or visual study for our mural. And we have our mural right in front of us. And we just going to make it happen. All right, now, if you saw lesson 1 and I referred to it in lesson 2, remember we created a design. We used geometric shapes and we touch, intersect, and so on. In our mural, when it's finished, we saw the same thing happening. And we saw the students hard work in lesson 1, the same thing was happening. We had shapes overlapping each other, shapes randomly placed next to each other. We don't have a whole lot of intersecting that it's clearly delineated. You have to come close to see it. But I have like the words and letters intersecting there. And here we have a finished piece. It's already dried. The other piece is over there drying, and we notice we use the same colors, the yellows and the greens, and some of the oranges here that I got from the Caribbean. I demonstrated that earlier. So here is the dry piece. What I have added on here is an image of my grandbaby. Yeah, she's 3 years old. She's going to be so happy when she sees this. To get this image on my surface, I'm a master printmaker. That's what I studied at college. And so I had to do a lot of transferring. This piece here was transferred, and how was it done? You would also see that it looks artsy, you know, like watercolors or acrylic or oil painting. I use my computer and I develop it, or I work some of it on my computer. So I am able to use a picture like I have here, an original picture. I blur the background, and I took the photographic image and worked on it in Adobe Photoshop. So this is how it looked as a picture, and then I worked on it and see how it looks more artsy here. And this is the piece that you see here that transferred onto the surface so that I could go back and work on it. All right, next to it you will see the mural. I broke it down into small parts. Here I have outlines of what's in there. And in doing the mural, I had a huge piece with all these shapes and so on in there. And may I say again, organic shapes. I had the faces, I had the dancer, I have Yes We Can. All these were small images. They were like this, and a 6 by 10 feet canvas, and I put the images on. Now, to transfer my images, I could actually draw them on, or in this case, since I'm a printmaker, what I did is I transferred it here. I draw the image out or print it out like you have here, and then I use carbon paper, old school carbon paper, and traced it out. And so I had the image transferred here. So you may not be able to see it, but some of the sunset and some of the other images, the dancer, I have it all drawn here that I'm going to use now to develop and finalize my piece. So here's the background. It's dried, image on it, the design on the back. The design is an arrangement of shapes. Arrangement of shapes and colors is also a design. An arrangement of elements, and now I'm ready to sit down and finish my piece. All right. So now we get into adding our finishing touches to the image. And pulling the colors together, pulling the parts together.
Give us a blow by blow. I just reached for it and I'm adding.
Yay.
Keep talking.
I'm using the skin tones, the browns and the reds, and I'm moving from blurred or less defined into defined, so that the defined areas in the work will be the areas of emphasis. I'm working on this section of the work, kind of multitasking, so that while it's drying, I could work on the other areas to put the other images in. Here, in addition, I have oil pastels. So I'm drawing and painting at the same time. And this is why the piece is called multimedia. So the images that you can't see, that I could see, I'm going to add some definition to them in terms of the outline. So when I go back, and as I add these definitions, it will become more prominent to you on the electronic devices. So this is my grandbaby, and she's actually, I deviated a little, she's actually enthralled or captivated by a dancer. So as I arrange my work, as she looks, she's looking at the dancer, and that gives another dimension to the work. The way I place the works in the mural, the images in the mural, each image is placed with a particular thought in mind, a particular reasoning in mind. I also want you to know that the images, the geometric images, remember I talked about geometric images and the organic images represent certain things to bring the piece together. It's a sort of a symbolic. Usually murals, the Mexican did a lot of murals. And murals, they are conceptual, they are very political, they have messages, concepts and ideas that the artist had in mind when he's designing the mural. one of the things that happens with marbling the work is that it becomes very light because you're using water and you're using a translucent approach to your work. It's very light, but it gives you the ability to build as you go along on your piece. So I'm including in this work aspects of Latino culture because the mural, the population of students at the school are Latino. They said Latino X. So I'm including the heritage or the culture of the school and amplifying that in the work. The work also has a very positive appeal to it. And so, the back top right hand corner, you see the sunset. That's what I was working on, and that's what's drying now. That area was red, and while I was putting in the other definitions, it was drying. Parts of it is still wet, but my friend who's videotaping, he noticed that the image of the sunset resembles the steel drums, which is a very important motif that I use in my work. I'm from Trinidad, and we bring our culture, we bring our heritage, we bring our surroundings, we bring our likes and dislikes into our work. So I'm building the background and it's beginning to take form. But I didn't want the background to overpower the foreground. So I'm gradually building as we go along. The work is also heavily, there's a lot of green in it. And that's because the colors of the school, or this setting, is green. And so you've seen a lot of green in the work. With the paper transfer, you may not be able to see it, but it was cut out and it fits on the canvas. And so I have to find a way to not let my viewers know what's going on. So what's happening here is I'm picking up the colors in the clothes, and where it joins it, I'm just going over it and continuing the color of the top. Now, we are all learning, and lesson 1 I said that we are all learners in my classroom. When I taught art, there's so much I learned from my students. They were studying the idea behind having a safe center. And so I asked them to come up with images, and they're the ones who taught me things that I didn't even know. For instance, in the Latino culture, there's all these flags. One of my students created a piece of work with all the different flags in it. I should have mentioned, for broad strokes, I use a flat. This is like a number 10 brush. This is a round, a number 8 for closer areas. And then I have a smaller brush like a number 2, a number 3 for definitions. So I'm going to mix the blues. I'm going to come up with a light blue. So I'm going to use a tint of blue. Here I have the blue from the tube. I'm going to mix it with a little white. And it's going to give me what I'm looking for. Mix it a little at a time. I'm going to work on this area of the painting. So the other areas, the other side is drying while I work on this section. Remember, you got to clean your brush. The left side of my flag is defined, but the right side, I'm letting it flow into the area between the face and the portrait. So they flow into each other. Blue, put some more blue. I'm going to repeat the colors in certain areas because one of the things we want to achieve with our work is called harmony. And you get harmony in a unified design when you repeat shapes and colors. It's sort of predictable, it's easy for the eye to pick it up, and it looks harmonious. I'm going to add some red. Repeat the red. Light colors come forward and dark colors recede. So in my sun, which is also symbolic of the steel drums, I'm going to put I'll let certain areas give form to certain areas. In other words, show that these areas are popping out. And in so doing, I'll create interest and draw the viewer's attention to it. I use white, yellow, because I want to keep that yellow theme throughout. And I'm going to mix it on the canvas with white. When you mix white in a color, you create a tint. White also in some areas acts as a highlighter. And note, I still want to maintain this original color from the background, so I have to mix it on the canvas. Blend it into the background. Yeah. All right, now, my background is taking shape and form, but I'm going to concentrate on the face, because the face is very important now. And I can leave the background like it is, or I can add more to it. But I want to bring out certain things in the face. The face is going to be more defined than the rest of the picture. Already the background is picking up. And it complements the face. And it's not everything on the face that I'm going to be working on. So we want this face to pop. There are certain parts of the face, there's a highlight. And what I just said is, we're going to use white in those areas. So like in the cheeks, on the forehead, is areas of highlight. If you're into photography, painting, you would note that when light shines on the face, these areas pick the light up. and it makes that part of the face jump forward or come out. This is where the excitement comes in. I'm not going to do all of it. I'm just going to do certain parts of the face, and it's just going to jump at you. It's going to jump at me. I could have used my smaller brush, but I'll get to it in a minute, because I'm now getting into she's so cute. Sometimes you have to use different brushes to get what you're looking for because the areas are so tight. Yeah, so we're making it happen. Making it happen. So you could use your laptop, you could use your Chromebooks, you could use your phone. To help you to get your definitions. So we almost done. Almost. At this point, let's get our black in there and she will pop in. All right, so the hour up. The hour up. Still have juice. Okay. So I'm winding down now. I'm putting the final touches. Of course, I could come back and work on it. Okay. So here we go. Study one section of the picture painting. The child, my grandbaby, and she is enthralled by the culture, the dancer. She's looking out of the dancer, looking away from the dancer. And this marriage of the different colors, the different organic shapes and tones, is some of the studies I did. And then I superimpose the same concept into the mural. That's it. Thank you for spending a little time with me. Lesson 1, lesson 2. Right. We started off with the elements of art. We created a unified design. We used geometric shapes. Then we used organic shapes. We got faces, symbols. We replaced our graphic shapes with symbols. And the symbols are people, dances, movement, other shapes. We pull it all together. And here we come. Yes, we can. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.